So today on the First Time Storytelling broadcast, my guest is Sangeeta Waldron. Sangeeta is an award-winning publicist and owner of Serendipity PR. She's the author of the PR Knowledge Book, a visiting lecturer, a global contributing editor at India CSR Network, focused on sustainability. She started her career as a speechwriter for the previous UK Prime Minister and ministers. Sangeeta is here to share the story of establishing her first PR agency in London, and she is joining us from London. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. And hi from a very hot London, as I was saying earlier, like I'm really sweaty.
Yeah, so if you don't realize this, majority of the homes in Europe, to include London, do not have AC. So, and obviously the summers everywhere around the world are getting a lot hotter. So I feel her pain. And I'm glad that while it's super hot in Las Vegas, my AC is on and it's nice and comfortable in the house. So, all right. Yeah. And I know you're quite the lover of Las Vegas. So
Yes.
maybe, yeah. And well, traveling right now is not much of an option. So, all right. So let's frame your story here a little bit and tell us, how did you transition from being a speechwriter and what you were doing to deciding to get into PR and being a publicist? And then we'll step into the start of your PR agency.
Sure. So I was working here in the UK. You sit something called the Civil Service Entrance Exam. And I got through, and that's how I started off my career coming out of university, writing speeches. But I realized, and I knew it isn't what I really wanted to do. When I came out of university, there was a recession going on, and it was really tough. That's why I sat the civil service exam. And so 5 years into my career, I thought, well, it's not really creative. There's just so much creativity you can do with a speech. And so I resigned, and everyone was saying, are you mad? It's a great job. It's a job for life. It's a great pension.
Great contacts. Great. I mean, you're being exposed to some amazing people. And what was your degree in?
English literature. I did my master's in English literature, 21st century English, American literature, in fact. And so I resigned and I went to go and work for a very small not-for-profit here in the UK, here in London, which was working in the developing world. And I was there as their media officer. And that's how my career started in public relations, in PR. And then from there, I just fast-tracked my career. I went to go and work for different organizations, some very small not-for-profits, some very big corporates, and all my roles were first-time roles, which I enjoy doing. So I'd go in, set up, do the job, and then look for my next thing. And in 2006, I was working as director for a leading breast cancer charity here in the UK. And I was there. And when I started there, it was just myself and 2 members of staff. By the time I left, we were an award-winning team of 10. So, and in between, so 2006, I was, when I left, and my story kind of interjects there with a little bit of Las Vegas. And so then in 2008, the world had the global recession, and I was a mum, and I thought, and my husband's job suddenly went under, and that's when I decided to set up my own company. I also felt, I guess, confident to do it. And I also thought, if I can survive a global recession, I can survive anything.
Yeah, that's we'll get more into that, but that's fascinating how there are certain people where it is a downturn and those other things that say, okay, this is the time. But what's interesting is the stability of your husband having work as well. It seems like it's a time where all the stability was going away and it was a recession that you're making this decision. So, and you're possessing the confidence to do so. So what are you envisioning before you get started? What are you feeling and thinking, envisioning as you're stepping into this?
No, I was just thinking I've got to just get going, and here in the UK it's very quick. You can set up a company very quickly. So, and I knew what I wanted to do and how I wanted to be. So I didn't want to, I mean, I've been working with corporates, I've worked in corporates. I didn't want to have that same kind of energy. I wanted to work for, and in a very idealistic way, I wanted to work with people I liked on things that I believed in. And so, and I also wanted to work that I didn't want to be caught in a box. So I'm only just working on food or fashion or books or whatever. I wanted to work on everything that I felt drawn to. And I remember when I went to one of these networking sort of events here in London, and it was a speed dating networking. And there was all these different entrepreneurs you could get advice from. And when I went around, all the men entrepreneurs who were giving the advice said, you can't just be, you've got to be niche. You can't do everything. And I was like, well, I can. Communications works across the board. Everyone needs media. Everyone needs to be able to communicate their story. So I think it can work. And they were like, no, 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 no. And then I got to the 12th person, who happened to be a woman, and she was the last one in that group. And I told her, I was like, now when I came to her, I was like, oh, well, I've been told from the 11 others that I can't do this. And she said, of course you can. She said, of course. And she kind of relayed what my original thoughts were. And I thought, yeah, of course I can, and so that's what I've done, with Serendipity. I work with lots of different brands, lots of different entrepreneurs, and they're all very eclectic. And, I think life is short. You want to work with the things that you believe in, that you feel you can deliver on. And that's the premise of my agency.
Yeah.
Because I'm only as good as my next story.
Yeah. So thank goodness she was there.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did you select Serendipity? How did you select the name of your agency? Is there
Well, it was a very homegrown sort of. I sat down with my team, my husband, my son, and my husband said, "Well, you love the film Serendipity, and you love the word serendipity." And I did. I really loved the concept of it, and it was also very much about the ethos of being eclectic, being random. But what I didn't realize is how serendipity would actually play out in my life and in my business working relationships as my agency got going. And I found that, I just started to find these synchronicities in everything, in people, in referrals. And the story I'm going to tell is kind of that whole how serendipity can work beautifully if you allow yourself to be random, and also if you are not hung up on the timing of things, because serendipity doesn't necessarily work in a time frame or the time frame that you think it will. It can be years, but when it happens, it's really powerful.
Well, let's get into it, because it is very powerful what you just said, and it's a constant reminder. And for me it has been, because I am I will apply my will and force kind of person, and that gets you this far.
Yeah.
The flow and serendipity, that is absolutely what opens up the entire lane in the world in front of you. And it's taking me decades to realize that and sit with it and be okay, instead of I can force it to happen. So
I
tell
mean,
us.
Yeah, I mean, patience is they say is a virtue, and it's something I'm still reminding myself every now and again. But yes, you can't force it, and everything is with timing. And so that's how my story begins, because it's a story of years. But each time something very purposeful happens. So I set up my company in 2009, and then I started to discover how important serendipity was within my networking. And I started to give talks about the power of serendipity in business. And I was invited to give this talk in 2010 in North London. And I was trying to create serendipity in the room. So everyone was getting up and just randomly saying what they needed, what they wanted. And people were, if they could, they were doing it. And this woman stood up and she said, I want to connect you, that's me, to my friend in LA. And he's called Stevie Kalinich, and he was a songwriter for the Beach Boys. And it turned out the woman who stood up actually lived like two roads away from me. So I actually got a lift back with her. So then she connected me to this guy called Stevie who lived in LA, and we kind of exchanged a couple of emails, and then nothing. And then in 2011, I got a client in Las Vegas. So I was in and out of your city. And then I went back in 2012 and I reconnected with a childhood friend in LA. So I was going out to see him, and I thought, well, I'll also see Stevie, the songwriter. And we were in his car, and at that time he was in his 70s, and he's a great character, very hippie, very crazy, driving around in his car. And then he kept talking about his trip to India and how he went to India with his friend called PF. And he was talking about this ashram, which is a retreat, a religious retreat in India. And it turned out the retreat he went to was the same retreat my mum is affiliated to. And so he said, oh God, we've got to get your mum on the phone. So we were calling my mum, who lived at that time in the Himalayas. And Stevie was talking to my mum, and they were talking about their shared experiences of this ashram and of his friend PF. So I saw Stevie in 2012 in LA, and it was summertime, and I came back. And when I came back to London, in real time, there was this song being played continuously on BBC Radio 2 called P.F. Sloan by an artist, British artist, singer-songwriter called Rumour. And I kept hearing this, and as I was working, I could hear this song. And I thought, is this the same PF that, I just heard about 2 weeks ago? So I emailed Stevie and I said, is this your friend, PF? And he said, yeah. And he connected me to PF Sloan. And then I emailed PF Sloan, and we had this conversation. We spoke on the phone. And I
just want to pause as you're making, like, serendipity is coming into your life. Do you have expectation as you're sending out these emails? So you're just sending out an email to this is who I am, just want to say hello. Do you want to just have a chat? Is there, like, do you have a purpose behind it, or you're just...
No, but when I spoke to PF Sloan on the phone, it wasn't FaceTime or anything, it was just a normal phone call. I felt very drawn to his voice. It was almost like vibrational. And he was the most amazing storyteller. And I just had that connection with him. And PF Sloan, at that time, he was very hurt by the music industry. He had a rough period throughout. He wasn't recognized for his talent. And so he was very much a recluse. So when I spoke to him, I said to him, do you know there's this song being played over here? And he said, yeah, I've heard it. He said, but I haven't connected to the artist. And so going back to your question of did I have any expectation? Absolutely not. But I wanted to do something. I wanted to pay it forward in some way. So I said to him, well, let me see if I can connect you to the artist. And as they say, Google is your friend. I just literally Googled the artist, found her manager, emailed him, and he connected me to Rumour. Right. I mean, I'm sure in Las Vegas, around the world, when you're trying to connect with any kind of artist, it's not that easy. You know, you have to go through all the channels. And so anyway, I connected to Ruma in like literally in less than half a day. I said to her, did you know, P.F. Sloan, the song you're singing, I've just connected with P.F. Sloan. Would you like to connect with him? And she said, absolutely. And so I connected them. And also at the same time, I found out that Ruma, the next day or so, was going to be performing at a venue here in London called St. James's Church in Piccadilly. And it's a church that I was connected to because an organization I was working at used the church a lot for their events. So they did lots of mind, body, spirit events. So people like Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, all the great speakers from the US would come and give their talks at St. James's Church. And that's where Ruma was performing at. So I managed to get a ticket, went along to that. So these are all happening in, you know, very quickly. So like the next day or the day after was her concert. I went along and she actually gave a little speech, and she said, you know, I've just connected with the artist of this song. I actually thought he was dead. And so it was so random. And the Guardian reported, you know, they reported on Ruma's concert, and they gave that little piece about P.F. Sloan. And then I met Ruma, and that's when it paused again. And then 2013, I was now in LA for a conference. So just before going, I thought, I hadn't met P.F. Sloan at this time, but we started to work together. And I said to P.F.
What kind of work were you doing? Just curious, together.
Well, I was helping him. He had some work he wanted to do, some of his songs, but we were just really in touch. I wasn't actively doing any PR.
Okay.
But just keeping in touch. And I said to him, Phil, that's his name. I said, Phil, I'm going to be in LA. Shall we meet? And he said, love to. And he said, by the way, did Ruma get the song I sent her? I said, I've got no idea. So I thought, well, let me find out. So I couldn't find her email address, but I went onto her Facebook fan page and real time just said, did you get the song that Phil sent you? Next thing, literally in less than half an hour, she had found me, my website, got my email address, emailed me and said no. And then I said, oh, well, I'll resend the song to you because Phil had sent me the song. And then I said, oh, I'm going to be in LA. And she said, so am I. And she said, why don't we all meet? So I went to LA in June, and it was just before my birthday. So my birthday is on the 7th of June. And that was the day that Ruma and Phil and myself all decided to meet. And I was thinking, oh my God, this could be a horrible birthday. No one knows anyone really. And we're all going to sit there. But, you know, it was the most magical birthday I have had in a long time. And Phil is this great storyteller. He literally transports you to another place. So he was regaling us all night with his stories, and it was just such a beautiful evening. And that was the 7th. Then on the 9th of June, Phil came back to see me at the hotel I was staying at in LA, and he bought his memoirs. And he said to me, I would love to work with you. I want to get my memoirs published in the UK. Can you find a publisher? And I said, I'll try, but you know, finding book publishers takes time, yada, yada. Anyway, I came back. I was back in London by the 11th of June. By the end of June, I had found Phil a publisher with a really well-known music publishing house here called Jawbone Press. So 2013, Phil was busy writing his book, you know, finishing the touches, putting it all into production. 2014, he was ready to launch, and he wanted to launch here in the UK. And so we go back to St. James's Church, where Ruma had her performance that evening. And because I had an affiliation with the organisation at St. James's, we were able to host Phil here in London. So he was here in London for a week. We started off at St. James's, but I also knew that Phil had to be in Glastonbury. I had this, I don't know, this conviction. And I was emailing all these head people, all these big promoters, can you get me, can you get Phil a slot?
venue, as a place.
At Glastonbury. And it was the year that Dolly Parton was performing. Everyone said no. But I still had this conviction, I can still get Phil to Glastonbury. So I thought, everyone kept saying no to me. So I went onto the Glastonbury website, that contact us info at. I emailed, and in less than 2 hours, this woman who was in charge of the stage called the Croissant Neuf stage, which is the stage that launched Ed Sheeran, she came back and she knew all about P.F. Sloan's music. She said, I would love to have him. So we went to Glastonbury, and I said to this woman, I said, look, Phil's in his 70s. There's no way he could be, in a sleeping bag. We need something a little bit more for him. And she arranged this most amazing farmhouse. And Rumour came along, and she was Phil's supporting act, which was very gracious of her. And we had, so Phil performed at Glastonbury, and we came back to London, and he ended his week here with a performance at the Groucho Club, which is a very well-known venue here in London. And it's a kind of a networking place for people in the music and media business. So that is my story of serendipity, because everything just, I wasn't fixated on time, but, and as I said, this is a story that ran over time, a couple of years.
Yeah.
And everything just came together. But I had strong convictions about things, that Phil had to perform at Glastonbury. I just knew it. And that he would be here in London. And it just all worked. And I guess
trusted that. And even though people were saying no, I mean, that's the key. Some of the key takeaways in the story is, 11 people said no. One said, yes, stick to what you have. And doors they weren't just swinging open. You were still knocking on the doors and they weren't opening, but you were trusting your intuition, your gut, like you said, your conviction. You were saying, okay, let me find a different way to this. And
I always remember I met this
the most simple way. I'll just go to the website.
Yeah. And, I remember saying to somebody, I remember meeting this person, another PR person who worked within the music industry, who was trying to connect me to people at Glastonbury as well. And he said to me, he said, I don't know how you're going to do it, but somehow I think you're going to do it. And I said, yeah, I have it's going to happen. I have this feeling it's going to happen. And when I emailed him, I just emailed the contact page, and, Phil's now performing at Glastonbury. He just went, oh my God, it's a miracle. Because it was like
because because you're trying to hire up our key to get there. And sometimes it is the person behind the contact page who can make things happen. And that's not judging anyone that you meet or who they are, what they might know, what they might be capable of doing. Because if you never know if you write somebody off, you never know who you're writing off.
And that's also one of the core traits of serendipity, is to be open, because you just don't know who people know. And to be random. And I think when you're open and random and you don't fix time on it, that's when the magic starts to happen, and that's when the flow happens. And I completely,
And I think the latter can be tough when you are in business and we are a startup, and because I don't know if you ever found yourself in a situation where money was tight and you didn't know how you're going to pay the rent next month. And sometimes that will cause you to push your contacts or push a situation because you're feeling like you're more in a dire situation, when it's possible, if you do just wait, all of a sudden that one paycheck or that one person that's been owing you money pays you all of a sudden. And but you got to be comfortable to be in that space of it's very do or die. And you feel that want and need to to force things.
Yeah, I mean, Eckhart Tolle always says, trust the process. It's hard to trust the process,
Yeah.
you know, especially when you're waiting for that paycheck or for something that you're really dependent on to happen. But it does show up, it does happen, it does come through. And you know, I have seen that, you know, being in business, it's tough. And these days it's tougher because we've had the pandemic and it's something that's touched each and every one of us. But I think if you can be random, you can be open and also share the love, you know, be kind, pay it forward. It creates that energy and it does come back to you when you need it. It
Yeah.
does come to you when you need it. I have, you know, I have seen that so many times with myself. And I think I can only talk from my own experience, but absolutely it does show up.
Yeah. No, I do agree. And when you're taking, you know, you feel it. You feel it when the road you're on is different. And I know I'm feeling it right now with what I'm doing. Like, this is different. This is not my first business. It's not my first rodeo. This is different. I can't put my finger on it. Like, I can't tell you why exactly it's different. It's just everything about how I feel about inside and my convictions about it are different. And you just have to trust that. And yeah, it can be tough, but then you know, people, and being grateful for the smallest of connection. And you know, when I started this show back in March because of COVID, it's like, I'm going 5 days a week, and everybody around me is like, you know, most people will start 1, maybe 2 days a week. Well, why are you going 5? I'm like, I'm going 5. And then it was hard to book people for that. And now I stay, you know, a month and a half ahead book, because people enjoy the process and they recommend you. And then you find more of that flow and you're like, I'm not having to work as hard. This must be the right thing, or there's something here. And
You know, lots of big, very successful entrepreneurs will openly say, trust your instincts, because they're the best tools you have. And your instincts will always guide you. And sometimes I will override that feeling. I'll
mm,
override my gut instinct when it's saying to me, no, don't, or whatever. And I'll think, oh, well, you know, I'll just give it a go. It will be fine. And then I realize when I've overridden that instinct, I should have listened to that first thought in my head or that first feeling.
yeah.
And just sort of to finish off with the P.F. Sloan story was that Phil passed away in 2016, but all the PR we had from the time he launched his book in 2014 to 2016 was amazing. And, you know, he kind of went out on a
On a
high.
high note.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was weird again because um, so Phil passed away in 2016 and he was suddenly diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And so I was told in October. And so I went out to see him in LA. And Phil's had a co-writer for his memoirs, a guy called Steve Feinberg, who's based in LA. And I arrived on the Friday and I was going to see Phil on the Saturday and said, he's not feeling too great. Come and see him on Sunday. And Phil passed away on the Saturday. So I never
Hmm.
got to see him. But again, it was me being there at the right time because suddenly we had over 100 members of the press wanting a
Yeah.
statement.
Yeah.
So I was there at the right time. And I guess it was a bit, again, serendipity, just knew the timing, knew I needed to be there. And when he passed away, he had over 149 global obituaries and columns. So it was a great tribute to his work.
Oh, wow. And what, you know, what a great gift to give somebody, because you mentioned he was a little
Yeah, he was
hurt
very
and not, and
burned.
yeah,
Yeah,
and burned by it. But, you know, for the last couple of years, that got to be turned around. And then, you know, in the final moment, which once you're gone, you don't get to see it. But,
no,
you know, those who know, you know, have that in their
yeah,
hearts and they carry it for you. Yeah, that's so
absolutely.
beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ah,
I completely agree.
oh, I love it. All right. Well, it is time for us to switch over and play the first time lightning round. But before we do that, how can people get in touch with you?
Find me on Twitter is the easiest, and it's my name. So Sangeeta, that's Sangeeta, and my last name, Waldron, Waldron. And yeah, find me there, and I'd love to connect. And I'm a very open connector.
Yes. I can attest to that. So definitely go ahead and connect with her, find out more about her agency and what she does, and or invite her to be on your show. Okay, so let's get into this. We're going to play the first time lightning round. I'm going to give Sangeeta 10 different first time options. And if it's something that you've done before, you'll say up or I've done it before. So it's similar to if you were on the 365 First Challenge app. If something you've never done, not interested, then it's left. And if something you've never done, would like to do, then it's right. Ready?
Oh my God.
You got this. Okay, first one, take a professional development course.
Done it.
Done it up. Do you remember the first one?
Oh God, no. I'm too old, but yeah, I've done so many.
Done many. Okay. What was your favorite one?
About diversity.
Oh.
I also learned a lot.
Oh, fabulous. Excellent. Okay, next one. Go on a Mediterranean cruise.
Done.
Done.
Yeah. Although I was terribly seasick.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
I was so bad. The captain even came down to have a look at me. That bad, yeah. Okay.
You didn't know that you would get seasick?
No, I thought I'd be fine. I had those bands on, and I had taken the tablets, and then
and it still got you.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so you did not get to enjoy it. Okay. Ride on jet skis.
I will never do that. Pass. Which way? Left?
Left.
Right? Left.
Left. Why? Why is that like a complete pass?
Yeah. No. I mean, I've tried skiing down mountain. If God gave us skis, we would have been born with skis. There is no way I would be jet skiing.
Okay, she is not jet skiing. Okay. I have a feeling this is going to be a pass too then. Go ice skating.
I've done that.
Done that.
And I have just hung on to everyone around that rink. I was a menace. So no, I don't think
But you've done it, not doing it again. Okay. Volunteer for a fundraiser.
Done that.
Done that. Do you have a one that's particularly memorable?
I did a walk.
Oh.
Yeah, it was meant to be a run, but I did a walk.
And you raise money for like each mile ran type of thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Splendid. Excellent. Okay. Fly a kite.
Done that.
Actually,
I've done that in India. In India, there's a kite season.
Oh.
Everyone has their kites, and you all go to the roof of your house because the roofs there are flat and they're quite large. And you try and cut other people's kites. Yeah. So, or you just fly them, depending on how competitive you are.
How competitive are you?
I am competitive, but I wouldn't cut somebody's kite.
Okay, so you just enjoyed flying yours, and did you ever have yours cut?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's no fun.
No.
I guess you got to go fetch it and put a new string to it. Is that kind of?
Well, you have other kites lined up in case that happens.
Oh.
So you would get your next kite out.
Oh. Well, that must be quite the sight, though. Is that across the country or is this
in the north? Because I was in the north. It is.
Yeah.
It's during just as spring starts, when there's this breeze, and it's kite season.
So cool. Do you know how it got started, like the history behind it?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't. But I just remember because I lived in India, and it was my first kite season, and it was just a thing, and it's great, when you're young, you're just
That is so
everyone
neat.
gets involved.
Yeah, that's so neat. That's awesome. I did not thank you for sharing that story. Okay, use affirmations.
Yes.
Yes, done that. Play the flute.
No, I haven't done that. And I played the recorder, if that kind of counts. I can't really see myself learning either.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're going left on that one.
Yeah.
Invest in gold.
Yes.
Oh, she has done that. Okay.
Well, I've been given gold. Again,
Okay.
in India, you're given gold when you're a girl, as it's always an investment to have if anything happens in life.
Oh,
Yeah.
excellent. Smart. Eat crickets.
Left, and I
Left.
don't think I would be doing that either.
All right. Not okay.
Yeah.
They're
I
quite
haven't done any rights
nutritious.
yet. Hey?
Was that?
I haven't done any rights, have I yet? So I've got
No. And well,
to.
actually, that was 10. Yeah, we did not add anything to your list. So you had either done it or weren't interested. Usually I do get one right. But it's all good. All right, final question. How have you been making the best of the current situation with the pandemic?
We're very lucky we have a garden. And so during lockdown, when we weren't going anywhere, I was doing my 10,000 steps in the garden with my headphones on my phone, listening to podcasts and radio. And in some ways, I mean, it's been really tough because there's lots of things have been happening and it's touched everyone. But at the same time, I've really enjoyed it in the sense of slowing down, not having to travel, get on the tube, and having the family time. I've enjoyed having, our son around, just that bonding, putting on Netflix at odd hours of the day, kind of things you don't do normally.
Yeah.
So I have enjoyed that. I've spent a lot of time writing. I've just written my second book.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So I've been spending a lot of time, and I guess like everyone, just thinking, just really kind of thinking of what I want next or what I would like to manifest next. Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful and very good use of the time that, quite frankly, we are being gifted with right now. I mean, that is and I understand certain people are going through some real dire situation, health issues, and have lost loved ones. And, obviously our heart goes out to them. But it's also been an amazing time to pause and to reflect and to think about things and to pivot, change, and do all of those things. So I'm glad you've had the opportunity to do that and make the best of it. And best of luck with the release of the second book.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending time with us this morning or afternoon for you.
Oh, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it and I've enjoyed the conversation. And thank you for allowing me to tell my story.
And have a amazing evening. And for those who are listening, a great rest of your day.